Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe Muro. And now, here's Zoe.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the New Thought Media Network. And welcome to the show. My name is Zoe Muro. I am delighted and honored to be your host for Choice, your creative superpower. We're coming to you from Oakland, California, each Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 12 noon Mountain Time. We are here to explore how you can wield your superpower for the greatest good and co-create your most fulfilling life experience. For those of you coming back, it's great to see you here again. And for the first timers, welcome and thank you for tuning in. I'm a religious science practitioner with the New Thought Media Network, and I'm also a transformational coach. My ministry as a practitioner and my mission as a coach are to help people live their lives to the fullest. So, in that consciousness, today in episode 50, we'll be exploring the relationship between choice and acceptance. Now, to date on this show, we've looked at choice through the lens of awareness and presence. So I felt like this is an appropriate next step to delve into acceptance. Hello, Shay. Good to see you and blessings to you as well. Shay is going to be hosting the show very soon on the New Thought Media Network. Really looking forward to that. Okay, let's see. So, acceptance. Let's consider what acceptance is not and what it is. Knock my microphone over here. I'll get it, folks. Got to get that microphone up. There we go. Okay, got everything working again. Now, for many years, I thought of acceptance as being at least somewhat negative. I mean, I've heard many people describe it as giving up, giving in, passively accepting things as they are, regardless of their being unwanted or unpleasant, a real sense of resignation or surrendering. Well, just as surrender gets a bad rap, so too does the idea of acceptance. Let's look at what I've been offered as a perfect description of acceptance. This is from the esteemed author, Jon Kabat-Zinn. Put this up here. There we go. He wrote the following in his book, Coming to Our Senses, Healing Ourselves and the World Through Mindfulness. Okay, I know it's a long quote, but it's worth it. Acceptance doesn't, by any stretch of the imagination, mean passive resignation. Quite the opposite. It takes a huge amount of fortitude and motivation to accept what is, especially when you don't like it, and then work wisely and effectively as best you possibly can with the circumstances you find yourself in and with the resources at your disposal, both inner and outer, to mitigate, heal, redirect, and change what can be changed. That writing is simply brilliant. And it's actually the perfect springboard for our exploration of acceptance. Last week we were looking at stress. I want to bring back this slide. Might recall this one. Considering what your stressors are, unquestioning and unthinking acceptance is most likely not going to help with stress if the circumstances in which you find yourself are unhealthy, dangerous, or damaging. Remember, the greater the distance, if you will, between what you want and what you think things should be, the greater the stress. All right. So simply saying, oh, I'm going to accept it regardless, probably not going to work. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Now, acceptance can mean going along with something or someone, but with a discerning eye. So let's break this down a bit more and consider what we might choose in order to take this particular form of acceptance. The idea of accepting with discernment. We can choose any or all of the following. And believe me, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list. We could be talking about our identity, our boundaries, our mindset, our sense of balance in life, our sense of personal integrity, our tolerance for vulnerability. Each of these can contribute to our discerning whether we will choose to accept something or someone or not. But we need to have confidence in ourselves because we need to make a stand at times. We do not want to be swayed by peer pressure or culture or custom. And yes, not even the law of the land at times. I mean, let's look at it this way. Okay. Consider we have seen that voters' rights are still in question or in jeopardy in a number of places in the States, as are reproductive rights. Slavery, of course, is illegal, and we claim equal rights for all. We say it all the time. And yet, inequity and exclusion still push hard against the fabric of democracy and true freedom. Okay. This is why we vote. This is why we elect people to support us, to represent us. Part of the real power that lies in acceptance is being able to discern what is morally right and then to do something about it. Furthermore, if it's not what you do accept, be prepared to act, to profess it, to ensure its continuity. Okay? If it's something that you do accept, you need to ensure that it will indeed continue. So acceptance is active. It is not a passive undertaking. Now, for a moment, we've been looking basically outside. Let's look inside. Let's talk about accepting oneself. Of all the ways that one can accept, being able to accept oneself is a true game changer. Self-acceptance is the ability to see yourself as a whole person with both virtues and talents, flaws and opportunities for growth, and that's flaws in quotes. It's about a personal inventory, right? Remember, an inventory notes what's there as well as what's needed. It's about choosing self-compassion rather than judgment. It's about choosing to celebrate one's efforts, not just one's successes, and choosing to learn when one falls short. Self-awareness is certainly not effortless. It's not about simply saying, well, I won't be judgmental of myself. It's about recognizing what works. It's recognizing what doesn't, and then understanding why in each case. As a practitioner and as a transformational coach, part of what I do, and I would say an extremely large part of that, is guiding people toward that self-reflection and exploration of one's true self. Remember, we're talking about being able to make choices that bring a more fulfilling life. This is a big place to start. If you have no idea where to start with self-acceptance. Because our ability to accept ourselves has tremendous impact on our ability, even on our choice to accept others. When we are accepting of ourselves, just as we are now open to possibilities, to opportunities, as we decrease limitations which may have held us back for years. Now, you may have noticed that I'm avoiding words like good and bad and right and wrong. I do say success, but rarely do I want to say the word failure. Unless you consider that failure to accomplish something means there is an opportunity to understand why the outcome didn't turn out as desired or expected. By exploring what was done, what was not done, as well as the expectations attached to that outcome, now we can get someplace. This exploration is just another choice, and it's one which can spell the difference between being stuck and being able to move forward. Let's turn outward again, and let's now consider acceptance of others. Okay. I'm reminded of a poem, actually a snippet of a poem. Okay. This is by Rudyard Kipling from A Friend in the Family. All good people agree, and all good people say, all nice people like us are we, and everyone else is they. We as humans have a tendency to categorize. We categorize by age, economic standing, physical appearance, race, religious or spiritual beliefs, social standing, gender identity, sexual preference. It goes on and on and on. At least in our early development as a species, knowing the difference between your people and the others was very likely an important part of your continued existence. Now, this is where I want to say, but today we have advanced far beyond that point. I want to, but sadly, just open a newspaper. You remember newspapers. Watch a newscast. Consider any political campaign, and you tell me how far we've advanced towards getting beyond the us and them. Choosing to truly accept people as they are can be a pretty big ask. Yeah, at times it certainly can be. But choosing to see the truth of an individual, choosing to recognize that we are all, each and every one of us, created by the same creator, it's a fundamental choice. Yes, acceptance, it can be hard. Yes, time stuck in self-loathing. That is no more. I heart me. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So we're talking about acceptance, right? I want to mention one thing. Well, one more thing. Uh, Acceptance isn't merely tolerance. Here, let me read this to you. Tolerance is the ability or willingness to endure the existence of opinions or behavior you dislike or disagree with. Acceptance, on the other hand, is assenting and embracing someone or something you don't like. And here's the key, folks, without protesting and without trying to change them. That brings me here. Oh, not here, there. This is from Rumi, the mystic and poet. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. How often do you find yourself wanting to be the person who's right? Here we have a mere 15 words of profound importance to enable a coming together, an understanding, communication, and perhaps unity. The more that we can approach people without the need to be right, without the need to say that this is better and that is worse, the greater the opportunities we have for communicating and for uniting. You know, it's very often in various types of group settings, people just cannot really fully agree. So they turn to consensus. Now, in consensus, the idea is that a final decision is agreeable to everyone involved, which means that the approval isn't unanimous, but the level of agreement, it's probably not the same for all. Now, for consensus to work, the level of agreement that the particular decision requires has to be determined. And if this sounds like it came out of the corporate world, it did. But it's very applicable in daily life as well. For example, let's talk about the highest level of agreement. Endorsement. Next to that would be agreeing with reservation, and then agreeing but with mixed feelings, and then lastly, of course, there's disagreement, but not enough to block the resulting decision. Now, it's worth considering how often your acceptance of something is really that bottom tier consensus, because that's likely to fall far short of what people are trying to accomplish. Perfect example of this in your everyday life is the compromise. All right. Let's go to the theater, let's go to the hockey game compromise, and instead we either go someplace completely different that we both want, or we do that consensus thing where we don't say, okay, I'm not going to go, but then when you do go, you're miserable. Now, we said acceptance is not passive, it's active. Well, consensus can turn into that passive. I'm not going to stop you, but then again, I'm not going to do anything to further your cause either. And believe me, it's not simply a matter of semantics. If acceptance is not truly possible, all right, if it's not truly possible, and that is absolutely a completely legitimate situation, but if it is not truly possible, it's well worth the effort to either propose alternatives or, standing in integrity, reject the proposed course of action. Remember, acceptance needs to be real. So, just what would real acceptance, what would true acceptance look like? Well, let's try this. let's consider these questions and see if you can use these to validate your choice to accept. Am I willing to take responsibility for the consequences that acceptance will bring about? Will my acceptance bring about an outcome that is consistent with my values and beliefs? Is accepting this the best choice I can make? Understanding what true acceptance looks like is one thing. But there are also choices we can make which will help develop or further our ability to accept when acceptance is truly appropriate, that is. For example, one of the first things that occurs when we're faced with an opportunity to accept or reject something is, of course, that innate threat detection process that goes on in our brain. Now, assuming we get past that, or even if we don't, come to think of it, what emotions get triggered by this opportunity? What feelings come up? Choosing to consider what comes up for us and then exploring how realistic that reaction is can allow for reflection before action, right? We want to avoid that knee-jerk reaction, whether it's for or against, right? We want to make choices to accept things intelligently, with integrity. Whether we find ourselves accepting or resisting, what's behind that impression? Are we following a pattern of resistance or a pattern of acceptance? You know, we human beings often fall into patterns which are familiar or customary. But choosing to discern if we are making a choice based on what is before us or simply going with, quote unquote, the usual can be invaluable. I want to mention two specific ways that we might follow patterns. One is called the halo effect. The other, which is its exact opposite, is called the horn effect. Very briefly, the halo effect is when we ascribe only positivity and operate with a bias in favor of someone or something. Okay. So unquestioning, sometimes even unthinking, it came from this individual or it came associated with this particular cause. Okay, it's great, it's wonderful, let's go with it. Whereas the horn effect is the exact opposite, where we would ascribe negativity and operate with a bias against someone or something. Neither of these is giving due consideration when we are choosing to accept or reject something or someone. This bias, and make no mistake about it, folks, it is a bias, can be difficult to spot in oneself. It's often, it's glaringly obvious when someone else disagrees with a person's assessment. All right. I mean, you're looking at this and you're saying, oh, of course, I see this. And the other person says, no, absolutely not. And so, oh, well, of course they're saying that because they're a fill in the blank. Or of course they feel that way because, we wind up with all these biases that we could be very unaware of. Remember, there is a difference between preference and bias, right? There are times that it's easy to try to hide behind the concept of a preference, or to think, not necessarily hide, but to just think that, oh, all I'm doing is expressing a preference. Okay, but there's a big difference. Bias is a predisposition or a prejudging, whereas preference is an expression of choice. All right. Now, bias can, of course, influence preference. There's no question, and vice versa. Right. So it's important to understand because we want to ensure that we are consciously choosing and know that our ability to consciously choose, this is our power, our right, our invitation. And as spiritual seekers looking to bring about the greatest life experience for ourselves and for others, it's not just an invitation, it is our responsibility, which we get to choose. Folks, I believe that's going to do it for today. I trust you found some ideas to consider and explore in greater depth for yourself. And as always, I welcome your thoughts and feelings around acceptance. You can email me. Let me bring this up here. You can email me at zodemuro@gmail.com, and I would be happy to take whatever you want to present in absolute confidence, as always. While you're at it, are there topics you'd like to hear about on this show? Something that we can relate to choice and explore in depth? Let me know about that too. I would be greatly, greatly appreciative if you could share this show. All right, share it with people that you know. Anyone who you believe would benefit from any of the discussions that we have about choice. And know that every single one of these shows, all 50 of them, are on YouTube. Okay, just look for Choice, Your Creative Superpower. You can find them all. There's a whole playlist there. So I would greatly appreciate it if you could share that information. Now, speaking of appreciating things, I would appreciate if you could remember that here on ntmedia.org, we have tons of stuff going on. Today at 12 noon, for example, that's Pacific time, which would be 1 p.m. Mountain time, Finding the Joy in the Journey with the amazing Reverend Gina Calvario-Krupka. And today her special guest is Nemo Patel. At 1 p.m. Pacific time, that's 2 p.m. Mountain time, the Vibrant Living Hour with Practitioner Ken Ludwig. And of course, we have evening prayers at 7:15 p.m. Pacific, 8:15 p.m. Mountain time, each and every day. So whether you're looking for prayer, meditation, information, discussion, even good news, we've got that. And we've got so much more. Because it is our mission, it is our joy to bring new thought to the widest audience possible. It takes time. It takes talent. And yes, it takes treasure. So if you could go to ntmedia.org/donate, you could help us make this a world that works for everyone. Be greatly appreciative. Well, I look forward to seeing you again next week. And as always, choose wisely, choose well. Namaste.
Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe DeMuro.